Hello, my name is Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast for December 27th of 2015 to January 2nd of 2016. And on December 27th, we have the sun. You can see it denoted right here by this black circle with the dot in it. It's in Capricorn. It's also in the 58th hexagram. And on the outside of the wheel, we've got the chop mark for the 58th hexagram. Numbered from bottom to top, the 58 goes yang, yang, yin, yang, yang, yin. And then the 58th hexagram is mapped to an opening in an energy channel called a gate. And right here, this is the 58th gate of aliveness, the joyous. Stimulation is the key to joy. Located in the root center in an collective logic energy path in the understanding circuit called the channel of judgment, a design of insatiability that connects to the 18th gate of correction, work on what's been spoiled, the vigilance and determination to uphold and defend basic and fundamental human rights. And I found human design to be amazingly accurate in describing the person that I use it as my primary tool when I provide readings. And we have the following activated gates on December 27th. We have the sun in the 58th gate with the earth in the 52nd gate. The north node of the moon is in the 6th gate, with the south node is in the 36th gate. Mercury is in the 61st gate, with Venus in the 14th gate, and Mars in the 32nd gate. Jupiter is also in the 6th gate with the north node. Saturn is in the 9th gate. Uranus is newly direct in the 51st gate, and Neptune is in the 37th gate, and Pluto is in the 38th gate. So obviously not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your own human design chart, because some of these transits will form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. And the neutrino forecast is really just a weather report. No matter what the weather, your individual strategy and authority is the correct choice to have an authentic experience regardless of the program. As Ra Uru Hu said, whatever the weather is going to be, you have your neutrino umbrella. As long as you're experimenting with your strategy and authority, the weather's for your pleasure. And as we begin the week, we have one channel definition due to the transit field, with the Earth in the 52nd gate and Saturn in the 9th gate. We've got the channel of concentration, the design of determination until December 31st, which brings the energy to be of service by improving something that will make a difference in the world. Folks with this channel bring focus and determination to anything they do individually or in a group through concentrating their being on their process. This may be a time when people have less tolerance for multitasking, preferring to focus on one activity at a time as a response to pressure, wanting to find a quiet and still place where they can concentrate their energy on the details of their process. And with the defined root center, this transit definition can bring pressure for folks without into hurrying to get things done in order to release their stress. And the sacral definition could influence non-generator types in feeling busy and having the endurance to work. They also may think that they know when enough is enough, which could lead to a premature or abrupt end to something that really needs more time. And we're going to be looking at the sun's ravishing line values daily, because 70% of the neutrinos we receive come from the sun. And as Ross said in Living with the Program, The Lines of the Day, when talking about these daily shifts of line values, he said we can always take advantage of the themes of the day. Now, of course, if your strategy and authority does not lead you in that direction, you can always notice how the program is affecting others in your environment. So let's get started. On December 27th. The day begins with the sun in the second line of the 58th hexagram. The sun in the 58-2 is described as perversion, exalted, no polarity, no exaltation, detrimented, a genius for the perverse stimulation that afflicts oneself and others by promoting degeneracy and reducing joy to indulgence and decadence, the energy that fuels the drive for perverse stimulation. And second line days, this is a time when folks are waiting for something. They're waiting to be called, particularly called for their natural talents. Later on the 27th, the sun then moves into the third line of the 58 at 3:18 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun in the 58-3 is electricity, exalted, the individual whose electric vitality creates its own stimulation and is not dependent on others. The energy to fuel independent stimulation. Detrimented, the quality of fire is dependent on its fuel and subject to its influence, good or bad. The energy for aliveness that is dependent on others for stimulation. And we get to the third line. We're in the line of the martyr. So we're talking about bonds made and broken, a trial and error process, a system of discovery by figuring out what doesn't work. And so this may be a day when we have bonds made and broken or feel like things are on trial. Things bump into us under that third line influence. So, be careful on the roads, be careful of people's elbows swinging at you or a door or things like that, because you can get bumped into. It's a good day for business and to work on the material plane, but you have to be careful because things can go wrong. But hopefully if they do, they lead to discovery. Also on the 27th, Mars moves from the 32nd gate to the 50th gate. So, Mars is in the gate of values, the cauldron, the values of historical continuity, whose traditional values serve and enrich the present and the future. Mars is exalted in the first line of the 50, the immigrant, humbleness of origin that benefits rather than restricts destiny. Exalted, the desire to be effective and successful that builds on the most fundamental strengths while it refines its nature. The awareness that growth and refinement of values will benefit destiny. And Ross spoke about Mars being an extraordinary and immature energy resource that lacks refinement. It's subject to outbursts. Mars represents the warrior archetype in mythology, and by following our strategy and authority, we slowly refine our design and personality. Mars is from immaturity to wisdom. On the 28th, the sun then moves into the fourth line. So leaving the martyr line, moving into the opportunist line of the 58th hexagram at 1:23 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is described as the line of focusing, exalted, the natural specialization that when confronted with a multiplicity of stimulations will have no inner difficulty in focusing on the appropriate influence. The energy to fuel recognition, which is stimulation, is a value. Detrimented, an impressionability that becomes confused when confronted with a multiplicity of stimulations, and in trying to accommodate it becomes unstable. Energy becomes unstable when overstimulated. And fourth line days, we're moving out of the lower trigram, the first, second, third line, into the upper trigram, fourth, fifth, sixth lines. So this is a time when there's a shift from more of an inward perspective to now looking more outward, a shift in the energy from more of personal process to transpersonal process with the changing lines, and the themes of friendship, companionship, networking. Fourth line days are great for social interactions. Also on the 28th, Mercury moves from the 61st gate and hexagram to the 60. And so in mythology, Mercury was the messenger of the gods. This is communication and expansion of human consciousness through communication, not just as words, but also as music, according to Ra. And what do you need to communicate in life? Well, we communicate the message of our design Mercury through the medium of our personality Mercury. And what might be communicated when Mercury is in the 60? The pressure to mutate. This is the gate of acceptance, limitation. The acceptance of limitation is the first step in transcendence. and Mercury is detrimented in the first line of the 60 and described as acceptance, detrimented, the drive for diversity. When limited, can become restless and agitated, restless energy when confronted with external limitations. On the 29th, the Sun then moves into the 5th line, into the heretical line of the 58th hexagram at 11:28 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Sun is detrimented in the 5th line of the 58 and described as defense. Detrimented, the assumption that the best defense is a good offense that might allow the strength of character to enjoy questionable stimulus without succumbing to it. The energy for aliveness, which forsakes self-defense and will embrace questionable stimulus. And the 5th line is about projection. And the projection goes positive, then negative. Positive, they could do it, they're the perfect person for it, whatever. And then later on, if the person doesn't do it, can't do it, doesn't want to do it, for whatever reason, they don't meet that expectation. That's when the projection turns negative. That's when the person gets punished. That's when the heretic is tied to the stake. So basically, when we're talking about 5th line days, we talk about it being a day of suspicion, but also universalization, where something leaks out like a virus, and whether it's a YouTube video or Facebook post or just about anything that gets a great deal of attention very quickly. When we talk about paranoia associated with the 5th line day. But as I've said before, I found that if they're projecting on you and you're not meeting their expectation, they truly are out to get you, and that's not paranoia. Obviously, this impacts the nature of relationships, and seduction also being a theme of a 5th line day. On the 30th, the Sun then moves into the 6th line of the 58, so up on the roof of the hexagram, and the shift happens at 9:33 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Sun in the 58-6 is carried away. Exaltation, a tendency to practicality that, while thoroughly enjoying external stimulation, has the instinct to draw back when its independent integrity is threatened. The energy to fuel independent integrity that will maintain its identity in times of stimulation. Detrimented, when basic intelligence is effectively stimulated, its natural desire for attunement will lead to identify so strongly with the stimulation that it's at risk of losing its identity. The energy which fuels loss of identity in times of stimulation. 6 line days up on the roof of the hexagram in the role model line. We talk about being on the roof of a building, that we don't look at the building, we look at what's in the neighborhood, what's down the road, what's on the horizon, what's coming up. And Ra talked about with the 6 line days not to get stuck with your head in the clouds, because you'll end up with something banging into your shins or your kneecaps. It's a day where there's a lack of focus on what's going on around you, because people are looking beyond their immediate environment. And like 3rd line days, there can be certain dangers, but not seeing a car coming, not seeing a bill coming, things like that. Also on the 30th, Venus moves out of the 14 and into the 34. So in human design, Venus is very powerful, deeply misunderstood, according to Ra. It brings morality and natural law in which we deal with the other and the consequences of the world around us. And what disturbs you on a moral level? Well, your design and personality Venuses tell us about the moral dilemma that you're going to work with in your life. And then if you don't act with moral clarity, Venus can be unkind in its retribution. Venus is in the 34th gate of power, the power of the great. Power is only great when its display or use serves the common good. Venus in the 1st line of the 34 is the line of the bully, the indiscriminate use of power, exalted, the less negative, the resort to power as a manifestation of frustration, the energy to display power as a response to frustration, detrimented, the comeuppance that is the inevitable destiny of the bully, the ever-present risk of retaliation to power displays. And on the 31st, we have the sun moving out of the 58th hexagram, and it moves into the 38, joining Pluto, and we have the Earth moving out of the 52 and moving into the 39. So we no longer have that definition. So let's put everybody back here. Mars and Venus. All right. I think that's all correct. Anyway, so we've got the Earth in the 39th gate of the provocateur, obstruction, the value of obstruction in provoking analysis, assessment, and reevaluation. And this shift happens at 7:38 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with the sun in the 38th gate of the fighter, opposition, the ability to preserve individual integrity through the opposition to detrimental forces. And the sun in the first line of the 38 is a qualification. Tempering opposition based on circumstances. Exalted, the psychic attunement that guarantees proper action, the psychic gift for knowing when and how to fight. Detriment, the tendency to oppose as a general rule, the drive to fight as a general rule. And during this is the 31st of December, so that we're talking about the Gregorian New Year. And during the Gregorian New Year, we've got the sun in the 38th gate of opposition. We have the Earth in the 39th gate of obstruction, bringing us to question, did we fulfill our purpose? Did we fulfill our spirit in the past year? It's deeply provocative energy that can create dilemmas. But it's really not about completion. We really are going to experience completion when the sun enters into the 60th gate of limitation before entering into the 41st gate for the Rave New Year on January 22nd. But the 38-39 opposition is part of the cross of tension. So there is more tension on the Gregorian New Year's Eve than anything else. New Year's Eve is really about looking back, and this is really the beginning of closing down the cycle leading up to the Rave New Year. Was there a purpose in the last year? And so we've got the sun in the first, second, third lines, again, lower trigram, which, is, again, more inward, more absorbed in its own process, with the theme of the first line, the investigator line, is that there's a fear or an anxiety that needs to be investigated. So it's a day to study, not to act. It's a day to look into things, not to jump. It's a good day to deal with things you don't understand, can't make sense of, or don't know. And then on January 1st, the sun then moves into the second line of the 38. And this shift happens at 5:43 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun is exalted in the second line of the 38 due to Pluto also being in the 38. And this is described as politeness. Opposition that does not transgress normal codes of behavior, the exaltation, the value of discretion, the energy for the intuitive awareness for discretion. Second line days, again, this is a time when people are waiting for something. They're waiting to be called for their natural talents. People are stuck in their own trip in that lower trigram energy. And so, might not be a great day to have a big social event because people really would rather stay home under that influence of the Hermit energy. On the second, the sun then moves up into the third line, the martyr line of the 38 at 3:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The sun is exalted in the third line of the 38, which is alliance. Exalted, the ability to sustain through integration with similar forces, thus ensuring the vitality to persevere, the energy to integrate with others in times of struggles. And again, the martyr line, we're talking about trial and error process, bonds made and broken, a system of discovery by figuring out what doesn't work, where things do bump into us. So being careful of what's going on in your environment. You may also feel like things are on trial during the day, or that you might have bonds made and bonds broken under that third line energy. And then also on the second, Saturn moves and leaves the ninth gate in hexagram, and it moves into the 5. And so Ra describes Saturn as being yin and yang clothing. Saturn is the judge, and this is a place of vulnerability where we deal with the consequences of our actions. And strategy and authority is the best way to avoid paying the Saturnian price. And in the 5th gate in hexagram, this is fixed rhythms, waiting, the fundamental attunement to natural rhythms, waiting as an active state of awareness. And in the first line of the 5, this is perseverance. If the captain must, he goes down with the ship. Exalted courage in the face of adversity. The power to maintain one's own rhythm. Detrimented, the premature and often disastrous urge to cut one's losses. Weakness in maintaining one's rhythm when challenged. So, no matter what the energies that are conditioning you during the week, just remember that this is an experience about being a passenger that's riding in a vehicle that's being driven by the magnetic monopole. Enjoy the scenery. Let the vehicle take you where you need to go through using your strategy and authority. Every day is a blessing, no matter what dramas beckon to distract us. We're all here just giving the performance of a lifetime on this world stage. Just take some time to observe your play, watch your movie, as well as act your part by remembering you're a spiritual being that's having a human experience. I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of the weekly neutrino forecast will be for January 3rd, 2016. Should be available on the 2nd, when we'll continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. You can check us out on Facebook, Blogger, and YouTube, as there's New World Birth presences in all those places. And I encourage you to share this information as videos or as text as widely as you choose. I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you have any questions or you wish to schedule a reading. And if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I'd love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine, in the USA, or we can connect with Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. And contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com is the way to find out how you can make a donation. Or getting a reading is also a great way to support us here. And the readings I perform, present for people are really quite detailed, usually taking 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours at the basic level, covering your human design information to talk about who you are, who's the character in your story. And then at the upper 2 levels, covering astrology transits. What are the scenes that are going on in your story? What's happening next? What's going to happen in the next few months? And how long is this thing that's going on going to last? And of course, as I would say to people, your lines in your story are always your strategy and authority. So anyway, anyway, I want to thank you for connecting with my passion for these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh, and as I always say, love yourself. Look forward to connecting with you next week. All my best to everybody.